Today, we have the pleasure of talking to Dr. Deb Muth, if I say that right. She's a naturopath, women's health practitioner, and she is recognized for her investigative approach to identifying the root causes of health concerns, leveraging broad expertise in chronic disease management. And her programs include hormone imbalances, toxic mold, sexual dysfunction, thyroid disorders, adrenal, detoxification, and the whole scoop. She founded Serenity Health Care Center in Waukesha. Am I saying that right, Dr. Deb?
You did. Very
Waukesha,
good.
Wisconsin
Yes.
in 2011. And now she's a leading Midwest integrative clinic serving patients globally with advanced protocols. Woohoo! And there was a lot more we could say about you, Dr. Deb, but let's get started.
Awesome.
So
Well, thank
first
you.
of all, yeah, you had your own journey to get into this, to evolve into this. Tell us about your journey.
I did. So I started in naturopathic medicine when I was very young, about 29 years old. My journey started back then when I started experiencing some very bizarre symptoms. And I was keen enough at that point, not knowing anything about functional medicine, but I knew going in to see my doctor, I was coming out with one of two diagnoses, fibromyalgia or MS. I remember going in that day. It was an August day. It was 100 degrees here in Wisconsin. I had on a long sleeve shirt and a fleece jacket, totally comfortable. That should have been their first sign that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And
Right there.
a little flag. And I was sitting there comfortable, And the tech came in and took my temperature and he's like, I'll be right back. I think this thermometer's battery is dead. And I'm like, okay. So 3 times after that, when he came back with different thermometers, he's like, I'm just going to let the doc deal with that. I was a young nurse practitioner. I'm like, tell me what you got just by curiosity. He says, your body temperature is like 95.4. And I went, that's a little bit of an issue. And he's like, I'm sure it's broken. Don't worry about it. And it still never clicked to him. Like I was still dressed like it was cold outside and I was fine. And of course, the doctor never addressed it at all. And I left that appointment with a prescription for narcotics, a prescription for antidepressants. I was told I had fibromyalgia, go home and get ready to be disabled in 4 years. I was 29 years old. And at that point, back in the day, we didn't know a lot about functional medicine. That was all stuff you did under the table. They're your witchcrafty friends. Thank God they don't feel bad that I call them that. And I still call them that. Yeah. So I called my friends and said, you guys all know someone that can help me. And luckily they did. They took me to a nutritionist, taught me about herbs and diet and said, you have a thyroid issue. And we treated my thyroid issue and I was totally fine. Within like 3 weeks, all my symptoms were gone. And I knew at that moment that I needed to go looking to learn more about what these people were doing. Clearly, I missed the boat in my education as a nurse practitioner, understanding any of this. And fast forward to 2022, I started having some bizarre symptoms after the lovely infection that, has plagued the world today. And I saw my orthopedic doctor thinking, I've got a bad neck. I've got some numbness and some tingling and this weird brushing on my face and this weird feeling in my leg once in a while. It's got to be my neck and it's impinging on something. And I remember seeing him and he looks at me and he's like, Deb, you're a smart lady. You know what's going on. And I looked at him and I'm like, yeah, my neck's all out of whack. And he's like, no. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I think you have MS. And I looked at him and I went, oh God, here we go again. I said, I don't think so. I think you're crazy. He's like, enlighten me. Let's get a brain MRI. And I laughed and said, that I can prove to you I have a brain. I'll do the brain MRI. That's okay. And we joked a little bit about it. And 2 days before Christmas, 2022, he called me and said, you have white matter brain disease. You have MS. And I said, okay. I said, well, your world and my world are a little bit different. And he says, I know, but do me a favor, go see the neurologist. You can start on medication. They'll take care of you. Your symptoms are minimal. You'll live a long life without any problems. And I said, so you want me to take some drugs that are going to suppress my immune system and give me cancer? And he's like, Deb, And I said, thank you, but no, thank you. In my world, MS is something different until proven otherwise. And I said, on this report, it tells me I could have Lyme, I could have toxins, I could have viruses, I could have this. He's like, you don't have any of that. You're fine. And I said, well, I did have Lyme. I was exposed to mold. I do have heavy metals. He's like, no, it's fine. And I said, okay, thank you very much. But I'm going to go do what I do best, and I'm going to reverse this. And he's like, you're not going to reverse white matter disease. And so last year, what is this, 2024, October of 2024, I had a repeat brain MRI that showed I had no white matter disease, and I grew my gray matter by 2 points, which is unheard of. And I did not have MS. It was all of the toxins that were inflaming my brain. And so that's been my journey through all of this. It's kind of crazy.
It is. I resonated so much with you because I got misdiagnosed when I had Hashimoto's. It was been misdiagnosed, and I had, at one point it was thyroid cancer, and the other side I was bipolar, and it was all pretty wild. So I totally understand that. And then I have two friends that supposedly had MS that were able to change their lives and completely different. So understanding this whole holistic integrative approach is huge. So tell me about being an integrative doctor. What does that exactly mean?
Yeah. So I like to explain it as having the best of both worlds. So I'm trained conventionally as a women's health nurse practitioner. That's where all of my studies started and came from. So OB-GYN area, fertility work is where I started. When you blend the integrative part, you bring all the natural stuff. So lifestyle changes, detox, nutrition, herbs, supplements, and then you get all of the medical stuff. That's really the positive side of the medicine, not the negative side. So you blend the two together and we really get the best of both worlds. And I tell people all the time, if I'm having a heart attack, I want to see the doc that's going to fix my heart and put my heart attack in check. I break an arm, I want them to set that, and it's good. But if I have a chronic problem, I have this inflammation, I have chronic cholesterol issues, I don't want them to do any of that because they can't really fix that. They don't believe that diet and lifestyle is going to change because they really think that we're all a bunch of liars and we're really not going to do what they tell us to do to fix it anyway. And we're not going to exercise and eat well and do all of that, which is a lie for most people. They will do it if they know how to do it, and we can carve it into their lifestyle. So that's the best of both worlds with integrative medicine. And then you add on top of it that we're not just looking for the symptom, we're looking for what's causing the symptom. That's that root cause medicine. Can I figure out, why are you fatigued? Why do you have this inflammation that continues to go on? Why do you get the migraines? Why can't you lose the weight when you're doing everything you're supposed to do? We really dig in and look at that root cause of what's causing it, because once we know what's causing it, we can put together a really great plan to fix it.
Oh, that is so huge. Not just the Band-Aid approach, but figuring out the why.
Exactly.
So how does it work as far as the nutrition, emotion? How does the emotional trauma, holistic, all of that incorporate into this as well?
It's huge. Traumas and thoughts go along with a lot of chronic illness, and we forget that our psychosocial part of us is just as important as our physical side of us. And we want to believe those two things are separate, but they're really not. And we all have had traumas in our life, whether they're physical traumas, emotional traumas, the boyfriend that broke up with you that you were badly in love with when you were 13 versus the husband that cheated or whatever it is, or the wife that left. We all have those traumas. But when we have those traumas and we don't deal with them, those unresolved memories seed themselves in the cells of our body. And it's that subconscious mind that happens. And we all know somebody who was in a bad relationship and they were sick as a dog. They got out of the relationship and all of a sudden, miraculously, they were better. And then a year or two later, they get back into a similar relationship, because we tend to do patterns, right? People were easy to get back into those patterns because they're comfortable. And then another year or two later, all of their illness symptoms come back again. Those aren't necessarily physical things. It's the cell's memory of all of that happens. And so it's really important to treat the trauma and the thoughts along with the physical aspect of things. And then if we really get out into some woo-woo medicine, we start looking at what happens in our past lives. What happened to us in lives we've had before we've been on this physical playing field. And are we bringing some of that in, or the traumas of our ancestors that have been brought in our genetic lineage that we don't ever think about? Grandma or great grandma, they lived through a starvation. We go way back in our years, and all of that is seeded into our genetics and brought forward today. And we don't ever think about that affecting us today physically.
Oh, it's amazing. And that's why I really wanted you on, is because coming from a domestic abuse and having so many sicknesses and getting better. And then I have my book, The Unravel Notebook, because until you unravel all this, you are going to repeat the same pattern because we're part of the problem. Woohoo.
Yeah.
And then, I have a nonprofit where it's not just helping people get out of domestic abuse, it's supporting them, but it's also the emotional stuff. It's like the counseling, the group, because it isn't just the abuse. There's a whole history that led to it. There's a whole history through it and all of that. And it does affect physical, mental, spiritual. It's very all entwined. That's why integrative medicine, I just think what you're doing is so powerful and so important. And that's why I wanted you to talk to our guests or talk to all of our audience, because it's so important. Are you feeling stuck in with love, wealth, or peace? Well, you're not alone. Often it's a subconscious belief holding you back. That's why I combined life coaching and hypnotherapy together, so you can break through what's been keeping you stuck. Life coaching helps you shift your mindset, while hypnotherapy works deep within to reprogram limiting beliefs and memories. It's fast, it's effective, typically one session of each, and I have a few openings left. Are you ready for a change? Visit livebrighter.info and book your free consultation and see if this approach is right for you. See you then. How does nutrition affect all of this? Let's talk about that.
It's huge. When we look back and we think in the last 50 years, we've contaminated our food at every level. Even if we're trying to eat healthy food, and I'll joke and say, I don't eat salad out because I'm just eating a Roundup salad, because that's all that it is. It's sprayed with a bunch of chemicals and it's Roundup that I'm eating. It's not real organic food. So you do have to be careful. Like, these chemicals and these toxins, they change our genetic makeup. They destroy our mitochondria, which is just a big word for cells. And then we add into it all the dyes and the chemicals that we never used to have growing up in the 50s and the 60s. And now we see all of these kids with hyperactivity disorder. And if we just take some of the dyes out, red number 40 is a big culprit of that. We take that out and our children's behavior is better. We have sugar laden in absolutely everything, which is a major problem. So to try to find a clean product that you can grab and go is so difficult these days. And, the reality is we all want to eat something that tastes good, but our taste buds have changed so much because we've gotten used to so much sweet that it's really hard for us to have that healthy nutrition diet. And we need to change that. We need to stop eating so many carbs, stop eating so much sugar, don't eat the chemicals, don't eat the dyes. And then you go, okay, Deb, well, what's left to eat? Well, whole food, right? Well, that's not fun. I don't want to eat whole food all the time. And now you have all these different diets. We have AIP, we have keto, we have carnivore, we have paleo. Like, what the hell do we eat? And there is no right diet for everybody. There's the right diet for each individual person, and it has to resonate with you, and it has to fit in your lifestyle, and it has to be easy for you to do. And I'm super excited that Bobby Kennedy has been talking about this and changing our food. Like, this is something my mentor taught me way back, going back to the early 2000s. And he was a pioneer before his time. In the 70s, he was talking about this kind of stuff. And to see it have to take this many years to get to the forefront where we force companies to give us good quality food, I'm glad it's happening. I wish it didn't take this long, but it's here and it's good. And then we'll have some healthy food, because diet is everything. If you don't have a healthy diet, you're not feeding your gut right. You're not feeding your brain right. You're not feeding your emotions right. We all know when we're emotional, we reach for things that aren't good for us. That comfort food, you're not reaching for a carrot, right? You're reaching for an Oreo or a whole bag of Oreos. And that makes it even harder for us, because then we feel bloated, and then we feel sick, and then we have a headache, and then we don't feel well, and now we're guilty, and then our emotions are bad. So if we can clean up our diet, it can make a whole lot of things better for us.
Yes. Oh gosh, you're speaking my love language. I mean, so it's like I can't keep it in the pantry because, there's always going to be a weak moment. So if it's there.
That's right.
It's going to be gone. I'm going to eat it.
That's right.
That's so important. So important. How does stress affect disease? I know we talked about like
Huge.
abuse and trauma and stuff like that, but what about like our lifestyle?
Lifestyle is huge. So we teach our children from very early on that burning the candle at both ends is the way Americans are supposed to live. We put them in everything, right? They go to school at 6 a.m. They are there all day. Then they have football practice, basketball practice, dance. They come home and do their homework till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Then they go to bed. And that's a stressor on the body. And so burning that candle at both ends sets them up in a very early age to have issues. But the one thing that's hard about the body is it can't tell the difference between good stress and bad stress. So you could be planning a funeral or planning a wedding. The body still views it as stress. And so if we're not taking that downtime and relaxing and rejuvenating our bodies and restoring our bodies, we're just burning it out on every level. And eventually, your body's going to talk to you loud enough that you're not going to be able to get up off the floor. It'll give you those mild signals like, hey, you're sleeping in later. Maybe you're feeling more fatigued. You're not thinking as well. You're not thinking as clearly. And that's all the decline of cortisol that's happening early on. But eventually, when we keep ignoring it, the body's going to say, okay, I'm done with you now. You haven't listened to me. You're not getting off this couch. I'm going to force you to stay here for the next week because you need to rest. And that's when we really start having problems. We start seeing more physical issues occur as a result of the stress.
That is huge. And I have to train myself to rest. I naturally, and I just experienced a death in the family. And so I really had to take some months to rest. And it was very, very intentional and difficult to be like, okay, I can tell my body is speaking to me and I know what happens if it speaks too loudly and that doesn't go well.
Yes.
So
I'm the same way.
So what are some practices and habits you do personally to live brighter and just show up your best every day, Dr. Deb?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that question. So I do a lot of work at the computer. I force myself to get outside in nature every single day. I love to walk. So walking is my time that I can just take for my time. I can breathe. I can listen to a nice book or some music if I want to while I'm walking. And I just can be brainless for a while because that's really important for us to turn our brains off. I always do some kind of meditation before bed. I try to wind down. I used to be that person that worked all the way up until 11 or 12 o'clock, shut the computer off and expected to be able to go to bed. And let me tell you, ladies, that doesn't work very well. Your brain is so engaged and you have all these wonderful things you want to do. You can't do them all. So now I turn the computer off at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. I don't listen to social media. I don't watch social media at night. I try to listen to more relaxing things, meditative things. I love the brain retraining videos that you can get on YouTube for free, where they just start to rewire the left and the right side of the brain and calm that brain down, get you ready for sleep. And I force myself to take some downtime too. So at least once a week, I don't do any work. I just sit, I relax, I spend time with my family and my kids and just do nothing. I force myself to take a vacation at least twice a year where nobody can get a hold of me. And I make sure I go someplace where nobody can access me by phone. And I say, you guys are all on your own. You got to figure it out. If it's really important, you'll figure out how to get a hold of me on Facebook or you'll email me or something, but I don't check emails while I'm gone very much. So those are some of the things that I do on a regular basis.
That's great. It's funny how you say I have to force myself because you're motivated. You have a mission. You're helping people. And I'm so glad you're forcing yourself and taking care of yourself. That's amazing. How can people get a hold of you and reach out to you if they're interested in talking to you about integrative wellness and what's going on in their own lives?
Thank you. So you can reach me through serenityhealthcarecenter.com. That's my website. And all of our social media handles are Serenity Healthcare Center, or you can find me at Deb Muth on social media as well. Or you can listen to my podcast, Let's Talk Wellness Now, where we talk more about these in-depth things about healthcare and surrounding women's health and all the latest topics.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Take care.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for our next episode.